Hello there, my name is Victor Oguinka, and you're welcome to the midweek edition of Today in the News, and of course all of those newspapers across the Federation, and looking at the major headlines everywhere.
Over 1,000 people are benefiting from free medical services provided by the FCT chapter.
Some of the Arsenal fans will be very interested in this news. Arsenal smash club transfer record signed Pep.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's news of Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Mushaki, and I'm with my co-host
Precious Chukudi.
And of course, a lot of things happened last week and also towards the weekend, especially with the United States elections, where Nigerians and a lot of people have been waiting for. But of course, with the media victory and people that followed it, Biden actually won the election. But I just want to ask you, what do you think? Was that what you were expecting? Were you expecting Biden to?
Yeah, I think that for a lot of people, they got tired of Trump always saying a lot of very praise things about the fact that he wants to put some division in America. The fact that he doesn't like black people was a very big turn off. And one of the things I did notice was that some of the states that the Republican would win, they didn't get to win. This time was Democrats. So it was a whole lot. I'm sure a lot of people didn't see. Some people saw it coming and some people did not see it coming. But I think that when the margin started to increase, it was like there's no way Trump would even meet.
Yeah. Many people actually did not expect Biden to win, but when it comes to that, we're expecting this, especially when the Black Lives Matters happened, and the reaction, then that of his reaction also towards COVID-19. I think those are some of the factors that just affected his victory and also the election. But anyway, if you can always share your thoughts with us on our comment section. Let's know what you think about the United States election. But now let's go to the paper review, and we started with the front page of Vanguard. And here on page 10, we have hashtag End SARS violence, out to secure Southwest avert recurrence. Governors, monarchs are saying this. Canvass fiscal federalism, unveil 13 resolutions as stakeholders rally. And that's it. And also inside we have external sector in rebound. Net forex inflows rises 18% to $4.6 billion. Net foreign exchange inflow, you can see that inside the Vanguard newspaper. On page 7, we have why DSS ordered hashtag NSAS promoters bank account frozen. Hashtag NSAS Serap 365 Nigerians tell courts to reject suits on Twitter shuts down. Also on page 58, we have United States election, Biden unfolds transition plan, launches and COVID-19 task force. On the stories above the nameplate, on page 13, we have 2023, why presidency should come to Southeast. That's coming from Ohaneze. On page 8, presidency saying palliatives, Lagos, Kano, Abia on priority list. And lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, on page 5, APC is saying we can't conduct a national convention now. And that's all on the front page of Vanguard. And from there, we'll move straight to the front page of the Punch newspaper.
And on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have main headlines: rise in COVID-19 cases, fears over second wave as states shun safety protocols. The rider says places of worship, gatherings, others dump use of face mask. Hashtag NSAS protests may be responsible for recent rise in cases, virology says. And we also have a photo story of a turned over tanker and people taking spillage of the tanker. And stories above, we have Southwest governors, monarchs meet, demands more protection for region. You can see that on page 8 and on page 42. Many policemen still missing. unaccounted for police panel. And on page 22, INEC, Yakubu begins 5 years second term today. Stories beneath, we have Ondo traders kidnappers reduce ransom demand to 5 million. You can see that on page 5. And on page 14, Trump launches legal battle as world leaders hails Biden. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we have audit infractions. Again, Ogun Assembly summons Amosun's ex-aide. You can see that on page 42. And away from the Punch newspaper, we'll move straight to the Nation.
And on the front page of the Nation, we have Southwest leaders tighten security with open borders now. Federal government should implement 2014 conference report on others, on economy and others. And also here we have no pact as government ASUU shifts grounds. You can see that on page 9. And also RMAFC alleges non-remittance of $21 billion to Federation accounts by NNPC. You can see that story on the front pages. And now moving on to stories above on page 5, revisit APC panel report, says Afenifere. Strong earnings push talk to new highs. You can see that on the business page on pages 17 to 25. On page 11, we have Lagos frees 253 #EndSARS protesters from custody. And here we also have Bush greets President-elect, that's Joe Biden, Trump free to complain. You can see that on page 45. Fire got Ajimobi stores. Kidnappers of Ondo traders asked for 5 million naira. You can see that on page 6. And from the front page of the Nation, we'll move straight to this day newspaper.
And on this day newspaper, we have main headlines: Southwest governors, ministers, monarchs urge overhauling of nation security. The writer says demand special protection for region's economic interest, seeks reopening of borders, equal treatment for all citizens, wants federal government to use existing laws to check fake news. And on page 5, we have Trump adamant accuses media of imposing Biden. And stories above, we have federal government disburses 195 billion naira export grant to 270 exporters. And lastly, on the front page of this day, we have Rwani protests to prolong economic recovery by 3 months. You can see that on page 8.
And of course, that's all we have on the front pages of the paper. But we're going to show a break now, and when we return, of course, we'll be analyzing some of these front pages to you. And while we're on the break, you can always like and follow us on our social media platforms, and also leave your opinion in the comment section. Any story that you see the front pages, you can always put it down, and also just give your opinion. We'll be back.
In the circumstance stands adjourned to 14th November 2020.
Welcome back, and of course, if you're just joining us, this is Today in the News, and my name is Damlola Ogunshaki, and with my co-host
Precious Chukudi.
And yeah, this is the analysis segment where we're analyzing the front pages to you, and also what is going on around the world. And of course, we're starting with that of the EndSARS violence. That's how to secure Southwest VAT recurrence now. And talking about this, of course, some of the governors, traditional rulers, ministers from the Southwest geopolitical zone, from security chiefs and representative of President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday took a critical look at the destruction that trailed the #EndSARS protest in the region, especially Lagos, and vowed that it must never be allowed to recur. Figuring poverty, hunger, gross unemployment, faulty political structure, abandonment of fiscal federalism, politicians' use of thugs, and monetization of elections among others, are some of the reasons for the unimaginable violence witnessed during the protest. They said genuine efforts must be made to address the issues urgently. Also, still speaking here, we have, of course, in this meeting, they're very notable names. But speaking with the monarchs, before the stakeholders went into a closed session, the monarchs clamored for true federalism to address fundamental issues confronting the country, as well as allow states to develop at their paces, as well as was witnessed in the First Republic before the military struck and introduced a unitary system of governance. And speaking about this, Oni of Ife and Alaafin of Oyo and others blamed governments and politicians for the #EndSARS protest due to neglect of the traditional institutions and the governance. And also they asked the federal government that there should be more of these meetings as they know what is bad, the good and bad of the community. So they just feel bad that the government is also neglecting them. So they feel that just getting to them, just getting in touch with them during the election is not enough, but getting to them during some of these what some of the things that's happening. And if you look at what the monarchs are saying, it's actually something that is a fact, because they know what is going on in their community more than the government that are just up there trying to look at these things. And I think trying to consult more with them will actually help the community. Or what do you think?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, these are youths who basically have their own, what they feel, what their aggression is based on, and it comes from the community. It comes from the home first to the community, then before it turns to a country issue. Mm-hmm. And so it's good to see that the monarchs are basically speaking about the whole situation and asking government to.
I think one good thing now is one of the monarchs and the governors, they were like a long time, and it's now time for them to address some of the situations that the youth are really complaining about, in order for something like the EndSARS protest not to happen again. And I think it's a good thing for the youth now, for the governors, the governments, to just realize that something like this is really happening, and for them to say that okay, they will actually take action. So I'm really waiting to see the youth reaction.
This also reminded me of during the period of when people started to discover like palliative warehouses, and how some senators came out on their social media pages and
our food plenty.
They are sorry that they know they have wronged them, they let them down, and it still boils down to I still ask, like, why does it have to get to this stage before you've done something wrong? Before that you've wronged a lot of people, why does it have to get to this stage? Because because at the end of the day, we know the whole #EndSARS protest was not just about EndSARS. It was about aggrieved anger of a lot of things that has been happening, in the country, because we saw people say #end bad governance, end unemployment, #end inflated taxes, #end electricity, hiking the electricity bills. So it was a bunch of a lot of things. People were basically talking about it, that no, we cannot continue to deal like this. But then let's see what your Ohanaeze Ndigbo has to say about 2023 elections. And the Ohanaeze Ndigbo has said that the presidency should come to Southeast, that's 2023. And the President General of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo, that's John Wodo, has said that the next president should come from the Southeast in 2023 to promote national unity. Wodo, who made the call at a meeting with a presidential delegation led by Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari in Enugu yesterday, also urged the federal government to develop the Southeast Development Commission and create room for at least 2 states in the Southeast. This meeting was part of measures put in place by government to respond to the request of youths made in the recent #EndSARS protest. Also, to promote national unity, he said, we urge that the next president of Nigeria should come from the Southeast of Nigeria. And at the meeting, governors, leaders, traditional rulers, and other stakeholders in the Southeast appealed to the federal government to look into the demands of the youth with the aim of solving them. And they urged President Muhammadu Buhari to consider the various demands of stakeholders of the region for its development, peace, and security. And before now we've been talking about zoning. Some persons who have been saying that zoning is not what we should be looking at. We're looking at people who are competent to rule for 2023. But in this year, a lot of things has happened. A lot of things has happened based on the fact that youth have come out again to speak and say they are not looking for any party. They're looking for the right person. So it's not going to 2023. It's not going to be based on whatsoever party. It's not going to be based on any party. It's going to be based on who they feel should rule them. And also, the Unending has said, okay, that since we're doing this whole zoning thing, we need the South, East people to rule too. I mean, every other part of the country have had their own experience in, having presidents, and then, I think the Southeast should to also needs to also be there on presidential seat. But then, like I said, it's a lot of questions. Should it be about, okay, it's time for, it's like when you're. And like when people are eating and they say, okay, take one spoon, and that person takes one spoon, and then it's like your turn right now. So it's like, I don't know, it shouldn't really be like that, or should be about who is qualified, who is able to lead the country out of the economic depression that we're in, the fact that a lot of people are suffering, poverty, take us out of the poverty line, help us with a lot of problems. For example, ASUU strike is still lingering 8 months now, and most students are not back to school. Nobody's back to school. They are home. So like in 8 months, spending 8 months, what you would have done to the academics really, and they're at home. It's a lot of questions. So 2023 now, I see a lot of people talking about 2023 now that we're still in 2020. So there's a lot of things to really expect. What do you think about?
Well, talking about the 2023 elections, I think should we say it's too early for them to talk about it? But of course, we can't say it's too early, and we can't say it's too late or it's too soon. But what I just think is, if they are still going to, keep to that zoning method, I think each zone or the zone that is to come forward, that I think it's their turn, they should come with the most competent person in that zone, coming from that area. Because we should not just, one thing that we notice, and Nigerians notice mostly, is that they just look at who actually have more, more followers, which politician, is more trusted by the people, the party, depends on the party and some of them.
Now. They are looking for competent people because for
that's what I'm saying. I think that's what the government has always been about. But now let's just talk about competence now, and let's not just look at other factors. The main thing is who are we going to bring forward that that's just going to erase all those things, all those problems that the youth are complaining about, that the elders are complaining about. Because right now, when it comes to government, we can't just say that it's only the youth that we have to put into considerations. Because when you're talking about poverty, it's also affecting not just the youth, it's affecting the older ones, and it's also affecting the younger generations that are coming up. So when we are talking about this presidency, everything needs to be put into factor now. But the main thing now is just going to depend on the people that are going to come out to vote. We've always had issues of people buying votes, people selling votes. But I think it's time for people to stand up and say, I'm not selling my votes.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why they even want to start, giving people their PVCs. Even before 2023, it was there in papers that they're trying to work around it. So let's see, maybe by 2023, no one should be complaining about having their PVCs.
We just hope, even with the PVCs and everything, this democracy will still stand. And of course, a better democracy.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
you have to make a step first before then you think of what next.
But another thing that I think when I was talking about this Southwest governors and all that, they mentioned the unitary governance and all that. That each state, should be able to manage their own funds. Not talking about not just this instead of the unitary, each state should manage their own funds like the way it was in the first republic and all that. Talking about these things, there are just so many things that we just need to consider. We can't just move forward to this. When we are talking about restructuring Nigeria, talking about presidency and a lot of things, I think we still have a lot of things to do before 2023 and before the election comes up. So we should not just focus on the election, we should focus on many things, tackling the insecurity issues in Nigeria, tackling the unemployment, tackling poverty, tackling many other things that are also going on in Nigeria. But right now, let's go on a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue from where we stopped. But don't forget to keep your comments coming and please keep it clean. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Mushaki, and I've been with my co-host,
Precious Chukudi.
And of course, we've reviewed some of the front pages, and of course, we've also analyzed some of the stories. And right now, we're back, and let's talk about, of course, what APC is saying, that they can't conduct a national convention now. So the ruling All Progressive Congress is again merged in crisis as the governor, Mai Mala Bunu, led a caretaker extraordinary convention planning committee of the party, insisted yesterday that it was not in a hurry to convoke a national convention because the condition precedent to having such an exercise had to be put in place first. The committee said it was instead focused on achieving and sustaining true and lasting unity, peace and reconciliation across party ranks ahead of the planned national convention of the party. APC, in a statement by its Deputy National Publicity Secretary, that's Yekini, was responding to reports accusing the caretaker committee of seeking an extension of its 6 months mandate. Meanwhile, the CPC was constituted and inaugurated by the 8th resumed meeting of the APC National Executive Committee (NEC) in June. Also, Nipena said that while a section of the media had been awash with reports of tenure extension for the CPC, the focus remained achieving and sustaining the APC caretaker committee peace and reconciliation core mandates. So that's basically what APC is saying. But of course, if you want to get more on that story, you can always get a copy of the Vanguard newspaper or visit our website. You'll see the story there.
All right, let's look at this one with Mochi. You've been following her on Twitter. She's part of the feminist
yes, of course,
coalition. Yeah, and during the NSAS protest, they were one of the people who were helping to disburse funds and all of that. And then sometimes last week, she was going to travel to Maldives, for her birthday. And it turns out that apparently, she was stopped at the immigration service, Nigerian immigration service, from traveling. And she's a lawyer too, so a lot of people have been expecting that use your office to do the right thing. And she said I think when I read up a follow-up story about it, they said that maybe her visa or her passport rather is ready to be collected at she should come and pick it up at the immigration service. But now, people have been talking about a lot of things, because even, when we went to the Lagos Court of Arbitration, and that was on Saturday, to be precise, the two youth representatives, that's Reno Douala and Maja Kudumi, both of them didn't come. Yeah. And everybody was wondering what's going on, because this whole NSAS panel is not just for it's not just for the public, it's for the youth too. And if the youth is not, if they don't have their representative there, then it doesn't make any sense for such a panel to go on. That's why they even postpone every proceedings that they're going to have even till the 14th of November. And well, it turns out also that her account was frozen by CBN, and there's been a lot of call out on Twitter, people asking why would you freeze her account. Some people are even threatening to even go on more protests if it's not being reversed. They're giving like a 90 days ultimatum. But then let's see what DSS is saying, and this is why DSS ordered #EndSARS promoters bank account frozen, stop foreign travel. And fresh fact has emerged that the embargo placed on the bank account of some leading supporters of the #EndSARS protest was the result of an instruction from the Department of State Services, DSS. The Will gathered authoritatively that it was the DSS who ordered the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to freeze the bank accounts of 19 persons and a firm found to be backing the protest. The security service was also said to have directed the Nigerian Immigration Service, NIS, to stop several promoters of the protest from leaving or entering the country based on intelligence information that were being used with or without their knowledge by both international and local conspirators to forcefully remove President Muhammadu Buhari from office. Multiple sources familiar with the development said that the DSS Director General, that's Yusuf Makaji, who has been covertly monitoring the #EndSARS protest, advised the presidency to immediately accede to the demands of the protesters because it got real-time intelligence that some unidentified persons had infiltrated them and wanted to use the protest to instigate the removal of the president from office. Now, this is a very strong allegation.
Very strong one.
Very, very strong. Because, when the EndSARS protest started, it was the fact that they, one of the perks of the protest was they didn't have no leader.
Mm-hmm.
They had no backing. So it was just like everything was literally happening on social media. People would give time to meet at different locations or where they hope that the protest would, and you see people turn out. And you're wondering, there's nobody leading this. When they get there, they will give different youths the chance to speak and see a lot of things. And now we're hearing that there are some local conspirators as well as international conspirators who might have used these people with or without their knowledge to forcefully remove the president from his office.
But seriously, this is actually a very serious allegation because when this whole thing started, it just started with the youths coming out to pour out their mind. Just saying EndSARS. That was actually the main aim of this thing first. Before these youths now saw this as an opportunity, to just complain about everything going on in the society.
Sure.
So saying that they were using this opportunity to remove the president. I think what most of the youth were just saying then is that if they are not going to listen to us, then we need someone who will listen to us. Because we're calling people, we're voting people there to listen to us. We want them to meet our needs and not just trying to fulfill our needs or giving us what we don't really need when it's not the time. For example, now there's something I've actually always noticed. I think that we'll discuss that on the other show coming up. But about when government or anybody wants to talk, you hear them saying that they want skills acquisition and all that. But we don't talk about education. We don't talk about free education. There's something that one of this very known journalist then used to say that's Jimmy Disu, and then he's always saying something like, during his own time, and that's most of the people now ruling now, then they had free education, and if not for this, many people wouldn't have gone to school then. That why are they not giving it now to the people who are coming up? So I think that was what people were actually clamoring for. That was what they were going for. So we can't really come up to say this, but I guess they have their own reason for this saying that, and they would have done some other investigations. But seriously, where this is going to right now, I really don't know. But let's still look at the panel.
And still talking about this whole thing, I had to just take a look at Twitter right now, and hashtag NSAS has started trending on number 3. And so it's just showing that, because at the end of the day, I think for the youth is like, if the government is saying they want to listen to the demands of them and they want to implement it, why exactly is the government still going behind to ensure that some of the people who were known to give them courage or give them, that strength to come out and speak, why is their account being frozen? Why are some of them being stopped not coming to the country and to leave the country? And I'm just seeing, let me just take some person's tweets. Okay. And this is from Zilog, says, youth want to take over. It's good, but can we vote our fellow youth without asking for money during campaigns? This is another issue again that you need to look out for, because a lot of times when there's campaign, you get to see that there are people who will say, okay, I'll vote for me, and you start seeing them share toothpaste.
Sorry about going there actually for the money.
So that's another issue. And then this is somebody saying that now that the second wave of the hashtag NSAS is gaining trend now, let us use our individual voices and come out en masse. So you see that at the end of the day, it's looking like the government has not really tried to solve the problem, because as much as they've told the youth to take their time, that they want to solve the problem, but moving up in these slides by trying to freeze their accounts, as well as stop them from traveling, is like it's like when people say you're adding extra salt adding extra salt to the food, or adding throwing more fuel to the fire, something like that. That's what it looks like. And seeing all these things that have been happening now, the proceedings that people were hoping that will be a form of where people can basically get their voice heard, they can talk about all the police brutalities, all the SARS related matters, has been put on hold till this issue is being resolved. This is a lot of things, and there've been a lot of people calling that, okay, since CBN has said these people should do this thing, let's boycott CBN now. We have Bitcoin now.
And all that.
So I'm like, it's taking a different, tone. It's taking a different look entirely, and that's the reason why the government really needs to nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud, ensure that those people who their account is being, frozen should be, unfreezed, because at the end of the day, you can't be having this kind of issue. I mean, what the last one caused, that how it was being hijacked by hoodlums, how a lot of people lost their source of livelihood. Some of the malls that we would go to, and when we say we want to relax, we can't go there anymore, because in fact, even the Lagos State government is saying it's going to take 1 trillion naira to rebuild Lagos. Like, I would say rebuild Lagos, but a lot of places have.
And we're still talking about the economic issues of Nigeria. Still talking about poverty level. The poverty rank, increasing. Saying many people are living below poverty line, and we are talking about unemployment. I think it increased now with over many youths losing their jobs. Not just youths. Of course, we have some adults who have jobs there, and they've lost their job. I think I watched a video then, an interview of someone then who was saying that just right now I'm very sure I've lost my job, but let me explain to you what is currently going on. So you are very, just looking at that person's situation, I was so sad, because you are just we are still talking about how difficult it is for people to get jobs. And now you see someone still losing job and joining the unemployment market, and you're just looking at how it's still going to. So these things are still affecting us, and still talking about going into another one. I don't think Nigerians are ready for that.
No,
so I think the government really needs to do everything possible to prevent another one from coming up. I trying to feel. I know we're still talking about the demands of the youth, and of course the hashtag NSAS protesters, and of course they still want their demands to be met. They should fulfill it. I know, let's just stop talking about ways to do some other things. I just listen to the youth, listen to them, and hear what they have to say. But we believe they will take the right step.
Another thing too that I think we need to talk about is the fact that we have different people who have been inciting so much, putting up inciting statements that when people read it, they get all riled up, and they're like angry, and then they're thinking of the next action. For example, a couple of weeks back during the whole hashtag NSAS protest, where Jack Dorsey, that's the CEO of Twitter, even helped to create an emoji to show support for hashtag against us.
protest.
And then Ahmed Garba basically said that he was suing him, and then Sarah and about 365 Nigerians too are saying that the federal court should not grant such suits. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot of back and forth, and we've seen videos of different lawmakers saying the social media should be regulated, and so it's looking like we're not even focusing on the problem.
I think it's not even
we're focusing on a lot of things that shouldn't be we shouldn't be concerned with, because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, social media has been a place of where people find it easy to express how they feel. Anyhow they feel is how they feel. Like, you can't change it. Do you understand? So if you feel like the government hasn't been very good to them, they come out and say it. Because there's no way. In fact, I see it as a channel for the government to know if really the things that they are doing, it's good for people. Because at the end of the day, you cannot limit it to just words on the streets or just some few man talking. It has to go where people are. Because when you put up a law, you'd see through social media if this law you put is favorable to the masses. Because at the end of the day, who are the people who put you in office? They are the citizens.
It's just like when you say that if you're surrounded with people who just pat your head anytime you do something, you wouldn't know what you've done wrong. So I think that's what social media is all about. If you don't see someone to tell you that this thing that you put there, it's wrong, you always feel that you're right. So social media will always tell you that, okay, when you see a lot of people coming together, condemning you, telling you that this is wrong, I think that's a way for you to say that, okay, let me correct what I've done and let me look at the things I've done. So, you saying that we want to, reduce all these things, I think they really, really need to consider. But it's like we've actually gone way over our time, I think, due to many of the topics that we have. But let's quickly review sports and see what is going on. But of course, reviewing sports, I think my colleague here is not really someone who is very interested in sport. But let's just quickly talk about it. Of course, new COVID lockdown threatens Super Eagles, players stranded abroad. Royal says that's going to try, saying it is not easy to get flights to Nigeria. So they are talking about them currently being locked down due to new COVID-19 law. Then, of course, what is going on, lockdown, and of course the COVID-19 cases increasing. And Ronaldo, who just came back, of course, from the COVID-19, from this COVID-19, he was staying at home for, quarantining himself for that time. So he just came back, and of course he's called and also comes off injured in Lazio draw. And Governor Wike pre-season 10-man MFM secure first win. Napoli may stop Osimhen. Of course, that's from joining Super Eagles for the double header with Sierra Leone this week, because they are scared of him, having to stay, to self-isolate for 14 days. And also they've had some other people like that of Crystal Palace, Jordan, and Liverpool's Keita, who both contracted COVID-19 after they were involved in other international matches. So I think that's why Napoli is also scared of Osimhen joining Super Eagles, and of course because they will have to, it means that they will be missing out for like 3 weeks with him being absent, because we have to isolate for self-isolate for 14 days and be absent for another 1 week. So it's really going to affect them. And now talking about Airto, it feels as it survives car crash, and that's very good news. And of course we have Premier League all-time top scorers. You can always see that on the Vanguard Live Sports at the back page, and also inside Vanguard, and also some of the results like that of the English Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and League One. You can get that inside the Vanguard newspaper and also on our website. Before we leave, let's just look at what Mr. and Mrs. are saying. And the first person speaking today is Mrs. She says, I think she's the only one talking. She says, okay, I will forgive you on one condition. You will do exactly all you did with that woman. Now, let's start by kissing my toes one by one.
Speaking about, Mrs. must have caught Mr. doing something funny.
Very, very funny for saying to start kissing this dog. I can just imagine that happening. But anyway, of course, today is Monday, the start of the new week. So make sure you enjoy your week. And of course, to get more of what is going on around the world, and to always, keep your friends updated. You can always share our stories, and also like and follow us on our social media platforms that are showing on your screen, or visit our website, www.vanguardngra.com to get more of our top stories. And of course, for now, it's bye from me, Damlola Obushaki, and also from our co-host,
Precious Chukwudi. Thank you for watching.
Have a lovely day.